Mike Johnson is making one of the worst days of Donald Trump's presidency even more painful for him. And that really puts a smile on my face, because while the walls of the White House are probably being covered in ketchup right now, Donald Trump is begging his MAGA Congress to save him. And they are doing anything but that. And it is funny that that is who Donald Trump has now turned to, because that is where the power over tariffs has rested this entire time. Donald Trump is admitting, after having lost the battle over whether or not his tariffs are taxes, that his tariffs actually are taxes, and he is incredibly upset while doing so. He is melting down. He is attacking the press. He is screaming expletives. And Mike Johnson is only twisting the knife further and driving the dagger in even deeper. And so is one other top Republican. Well, actually many, but one other particularly high-ranking Republican in Congress. We are going to get into it all, but of course it begins with Donald Trump's meltdown before we get to Mike Johnson.
About this. Yeah, Pamela, we still have no official reaction from the White House or President Trump. We are waiting. I am told that they are meeting, discussing how they are going to respond. But we have learned more about what happened in the room when President Trump was with those governors and he learned of the Supreme Court decision. Apparently, the breakfast had been going well. They were working together. And then President Trump became enraged. He started ranting about the decision, not only calling it a disgrace, but started attacking the courts, at one point saying, "These effing courts," but using the actual language there. We know that President Trump does use expletives on quite often when he is enraged in particular. Now, this, of course, comes as this tariff policy. This could not be a bigger decision for President Trump. This could not be a bigger loss for President Trump. Not only is so much of his economic agenda based on these tariffs, so much of his foreign policy is based on these tariffs. He has used these tariffs as leverage in almost every meeting that he has had around the world. He has touted them as the most important part of the economic agenda. So clearly a huge loss, and he recognizes that today. Pamela?
All right, Kristen.
The man threw the press out of the White House and then went on an expletive-laden rant. And why should anyone be surprised that Donald Trump is furious and thinks that he is going to scream his way out of this one? But this was destined to happen. I do not think that anyone should be surprised that a Supreme Court that was essentially mocking Donald Trump and his lawyers during oral arguments and had Scott Bessent sitting in the front row like moral support. I do not understand why anyone thought that we would get any decision besides this one. And while we have seen that, we have also seen Congress starting to take more action as Republicans are realizing that this is going to be a massive political millstone weighing them down ahead of the midterms. That is why Don Bacon said what he said just a few short days ago, before we get into the rest of the news coming from congressional Republicans.
That said, I think the president would be better off if we were more independent. If he allowed Congress to push back on tariffs, I think his numbers would be higher right now. If you listen to the majority's concern on Ukraine, his numbers would be higher. And if his numbers are higher, I think it helps out Republicans in the midterm elections. Right now, I think tariffs are down in favorability by 2-1. And I'm an old school conservative. I have never supported tariffs. The last Republican president to support tariffs was Herbert Hoover. And it did not work out well for Hoover during the Depression. And Republicans have always stood for peace through strength, stood up to the bully like Russia, and it has had a large voice for freedom and alliances. The president has not been that good on this area, and his numbers show it. So I think if frankly, the speaker, I know he's been trying to protect the president, but if he allowed more freedom and more independence within the Republicans in the House, and the House in general, Republicans and Democrats, I think we'd be in a better spot in many areas. And I think the president's numbers would actually be higher, and so would the Republicans right now.
This is a tremendous opportunity for Democrats to message ahead of the midterms. And I want to talk about that after we get into the details of Mike Johnson's response. Also, Mitch McConnell decided to come out of nowhere and really give it to Donald Trump, but Democrats are already responding. I want to talk about what Graham Plattner had to say. We may have him on the show later. Governor Newsom is holding a press conference today announcing that he is going to be calling for a tariff refund for every American. Big corporations should not get this money. And Donald Trump, as we speak, and as you might be watching this video, is gearing up for a press conference of his own. I expect this to be the meltdown of the millennium because he is already panicking. He is begging Congress to help, and the response is only driving the dagger even further into Trump. I feel vindicated. Anti-tariff Republicans cheer as the Supreme Court checks Trump. Speaker Mike Johnson and other key Republican leaders did not immediately weigh in on the ruling Friday. I wonder why. Republican tariff skeptics on Capitol Hill celebrated after the Supreme Court struck down the core legal authority behind Donald Trump's sweeping global tariffs. This was a heavy blow against a major pillar of the president's agenda that had enabled unlimited corruption, but offered a welcome off-ramp to Republican lawmakers who viewed the tariffs as a political loser. Retiring Representative Don Bacon, a Republican, broke with Trump and Republican leaders a week ago to help overturn Trump's Canada tariffs. On Friday, he praised the common sense ruling by the Supreme Court that essentially invalidates those and many other tariffs. The checks and balances our Constitution puts in place works, Bacon said in an interview Friday morning shortly after the decision, adding, "I feel vindicated." Another Republican who backed the effort to overturn the Canada tariffs, Representative Thomas Massie, also praised the ruling. On its face, this case was obvious because the Constitution vests the power to tax with the legislative branch, not the executive, Massie said in a text message. No contrived emergency power can undo that. Speaker Mike Johnson sidestepped any praise or criticism of the ruling, saying that Trump's tariffs had brought in billions of dollars and created immense leverage for America's trade strategy. Yeah, I do not know what leverage you are referring to. We did not get any deals. Johnson says that Congress and the administration will determine the best path forward in the coming weeks. Not really supportive of doing anything, is he? He had 4 Republicans vote to knock down Canada tariffs last week and had to work that vote hard. Mitch McConnell also chimed in saying today the Supreme Court reaffirmed authority that has rested with Congress for centuries. The American people already know that tariffs make building and buying here at home more expensive. And Kentuckians understand this painful reality better than most. But the use of IEPA to circumvent Congress in the imposition of tariffs, and already without precedent, is not just bad policy, it is also illegal. Let us make one thing clear. When Mike Johnson says he is going to determine the best course of action without really condemning the Supreme Court's ruling, what he is saying is, oh, thank God, oh, thank God. Even if Congress does call a vote, do you really think the 4 Republicans who struck down Canada tariffs and are praising the Supreme Court are going to jump on board to reverse course and be personally responsible for taxing Americans? It is just not going to happen. So Mike Johnson has one of 2 options. First, he can delay, and hurt Trump's feelings by doing nothing in Congress. Or second, he can bring a vote that will fail, publicly humiliate Trump, and show how weak he is within his own caucus as well. Those are the 2 options. And that just twists the knife, does it not? Oh my God, it hurts. It is not good for Johnson. But more than anything, this is an incredible opportunity for Democratic messaging because Donald Trump and Scott Bessent have long talked about why we cannot allow the Supreme Court to interfere with our national security by striking down these tariffs. First, because Donald Trump could no longer abuse power and use his tariffs as a tool to mob boss around and demand trophies, gold statues, investments in his golf courses, or crypto coins. But he has also said that we would have to pay all this money back. And who is getting that money? Big corporations are who Donald Trump wants to give the tariff refund to. Corporations that have already raised prices, often artificially and unnecessarily. Due to tariff pressure they were not even really feeling yet. They raised prices on us. Prices have gone up and will stay high. Just because tariffs go away does not mean Target or Walmart or any other giant multi-billion-dollar multinational corporation is going to say, you know what would be nice? If we had less profits. They are not going to do that. They are only going to make more money. It would be ridiculous to give them another giant check for stock buybacks. That is an idiotic idea, and it is bad economic policy. And that is exactly what Graham Plattner so perfectly articulated. Plattner wrote, "Today's Supreme Court tariff decision absolutely cannot become another $175 billion giveaway to corporations. They hiked prices due to Trump's illegal tariffs, and we paid the price. Any tariff refunds belong to consumers and small businesses, not corporations with record profits." Democrats, follow that messaging. Follow that messaging exactly. We should not be giving money back to corporations. We absolutely should not be doing so. And I know there are some people who have responded and said, well, if we send this money to Americans, as Governor Newsom is perhaps advocating for, there is going to be more consumption, so more demand. It is going to mess things up. We are going to see inflation. I understand that argument. If the money is being put back into the system anyway, do we really just want it going to big corporations? Is that what we want to do? I think there is a fine debate to be had about what the inflationary impact of this money going out to Americans all at once would be. But it is not like a multi-trillion-dollar thing where we are printing a bunch of money. What the administration is already saying is, we already took the money from you. We already have it. It is our money. We are not printing more of it. I am not an economist. I took one economics class in college, so I am not going to claim that I know exactly what that impact would be. But one thing I can tell you for sure is we should not be giving it to giant corporations. That is a terrible idea, and it is a great messaging opportunity for Democrats. Not that messaging is the only thing that matters, to demand that that is not what happens. Introduce legislation to ensure that the money goes to Americans. Let Mike Johnson strike it down. Let Mike Johnson have that on his plate too, because what is obvious here is that Republicans feel like a boot has been taken off of their face that was holding them down, and they want to escape this as quickly as possible. The tariff reality has been a political nightmare for Republicans. They are glad that it is gone. They are glad that they do not have to deal with this issue anymore. Mike Johnson certainly is, and that is evident in his response, his kind of non-answer and non-criticism of the Supreme Court. He did not want his caucus to have to deal with this. So we should drive home the pain for Republicans as much as possible. Do not let them evade this. And more than anything, do not let corporations win. They already did when they artificially and unnecessarily raised their prices on us. That should be the clear, loud, unmistakable message. That is what we should be pointing to. But I want to close with this thought. Someone brought it to my attention, and I think this is important in a conversation about where Donald Trump is taking, stealing, and moving money. Donald Trump said yesterday at his Board of Peace Summit that the American government would be donating $10 billion to his Board of Peace, money that he controls. By the way, Congress has not appropriated those funds. Donald Trump is announcing an illegal contribution. We do not know where that money is coming from, but the last time Donald Trump used the $10 billion figure was when he said that was the money he would be taking from one of his many lawsuits against the U.S. government, the IRS. Donald Trump wants to take $10 billion that he said he would donate to charity and give it to his Board of Peace, which he controls. He is going to steal $10 billion, put it into this project that he controls with billions of other dollars from other countries pretending to give it legitimacy when it is just another effort for Trump to steal from us. Watch this space. We are going to keep covering it all. If you want to support that and stay up to date, as always, you can hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, everyone. Do not let them silence you. Until next time, we will see you.